Welcome to Flip Nerd Live, discussions with and training from America's very best real estate investing professionals. We meet live twice a month to discuss what's working now and get your questions answered. We broadcast live inside of a private online community, which you can join for free by visiting flipnerd.com/live. Let's start today's show. Hey, Jerry, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Mike.
Yeah, glad to have you here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, awesome. Well, everybody excited to have you here today. Jerry Green is a veteran real estate investor. I'll have him introduce himself here in just a moment. Has a ton of amazing knowledge. And I think most importantly in today's show, we're going to be talking about the current market. A lot of people are scared to death. And guys like Jerry and I are like our mouths are watering, they're kind of licking our chops because this is the market I started in. Jerry's been through markets like this before. This is the best time to be a real estate investor. So if you're running scared right now or you're worried about this is the show for you. And in fact, if you're watching this live, we'd love for you to chat in a little bit and kind of tell us what you're feeling, where you're from. Are you nervous? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 is you're scared to death. 1 is, or let's say 10 is you're excited as hell. How about that? And 1 is you're scared to death. Kind of post in the comments here. If you're not watching us live, by the way, if you go to flipnerd.com/live, you can get on our list. We'll notify you of new shows that we do. We do this live show twice a month, and I'd love for you to join us live and create some more interaction in here. So if you're watching live, tell us on a scale of 1 to 10. 1, you're scared to death. 10, you're super excited about the market we're going into. We hope you're excited, and hopefully by the time this show's over, you'll definitely be more excited than you were before you got here because we're going to drop some great knowledge today. So Jerry, tell us a little bit about your background. You've got a rich history of real estate investing. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yes, sir. Absolutely, Mike. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on today. I appreciate that, and I'm glad to share. So I look at really going back in time. It's been 28 years now. 1994 is when I first started in this business. So been doing a long time. I guess that dates me a little bit, doesn't it?
We're both getting old, my friend. I like to say wiser and better.
Yeah, that's true. I have to tell my wife that one. So, I started in 1994 in this business. Back in it was over in Springfield, Ohio. That's where I got started at. I started in it I kind of got forced into it because I had a choice either to do that or get a job somewhere. And I was like, well, this sounds like something cool to do. So I went to a real estate training in Cincinnati, Ohio, by a gentleman named Charles Gibbons. I don't know if you ever heard of him, Mike.
I haven't heard that name. No.
So this is a long, long time ago, and so he's passed away since then. But I got started with him at I think it was a 3-day training, and I walked out of the training, tried to figure out what I wanted to do, and I ended up actually hiring a mentor from that event. And what was interesting was prior to that, I was in the contracting business with my father, actually electrical contracting. And the reason that I went so quickly into the real estate space is because the business we were working in, we had a large general contractor fold up on us. And I ended up being in a position where I ended up going bankrupt, and I had to figure out something to do and to generate money. And so I decided to do real estate. Had no idea how I was going to do it. Hired a mentor, had to borrow my mom and dad's credit cards to be able to do that. And I got started in it, and I started off actually by wholesaling way back then. And of course, back then, everybody thought wholesaling was like, what is this? Never heard of such a thing. Are you crazy? That's not legal. You can't do this. And just continued to hammer on that side.
A lot of people still think that.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So I started doing that over and over again. And then I got in the fix and flip model. Just kind of fast forward, I got in and started buying some multifamily, bought a lot of single family rentals and duplexes, 3plexes, 4plexes over those years.
And now, a word from our sponsors. Investor Fuel is America's #1 mastermind community for professional real estate investors, where hundreds of the top investors from across the country come together to build stronger businesses and stronger lives. Our community is about giving and transformation. If you're ready to take your business to a whole new level, please learn more and schedule a call with us today at investorfuel.com. Investor Machine is the nation's #1 done-for-you lead source for professional real estate investors, serving many of the highest performing and most respected real estate investors in America. We use a unique approach to data that is truly unlike anything else on the market, then execute your direct mail and skip tracing campaigns for you. Markets are filling up quickly. If you'd like to learn more about our world-class service, please visit investormachine.com. Find out why over 7,000 real estate investors and agents have chosen Carrot to build their website to attract and convert more online motivated seller leads. Visit flipnerd.com/carrot to learn more about how Carrot can help you.
I even got into the commercial space some. We were doing some Family Dollar and General Dollar stores for a while back in the earlier 2000s, and just continued to grow it. I even built it up to where we had one time a turnkey rental model. We're doing that. And it just all these things over those years that I've done. And, during that whole cycle and stuff, I went through a lot of stuff. A lot of people that know my story went through a personal tragedy, lost my first wife with cancer. I had a newborn son I was taking care of. At the same time, it was just a lot. And then I got to the point where I built this massive machine up, Mike, and it was in the 2000s, about mid 2000s. I got to the point where I literally hated what I was doing, because I got to the point where I realized this big mass machine I built was all about me. It was just a constant drain. And we ended up getting rid of about 75% of all the team members, pretty well cleaned house, and then rebuilt it again. But I built it this time based upon actually doing it as a business and focusing on that and building it out that way. So, that's been many years ago, several thousands deals in the pipeline. And so we built it out now where it runs more of a machine, and I'm not involved in the day-to-day anymore.
Yeah, that's great. And that's what everybody ultimately wants to get to, right? And I think you've simplified your model a lot. Not that it's easy, but it's a simple model of wholesaling, right? And not doing stuff in commercial and all sorts of other things that kind of, the problem with some of those complicated models is like a lot of that knowledge is in your head, right? It's hard to convey, well, when this happens, do this totally different thing. And when this happens, do this totally different thing. You can kind of streamline it, and you're making vanilla and chocolate ice cream, and that's it, right? For the most part.
Yeah, absolutely. But what the cool thing about it, Mike, it's allowed me to, a lot of people say, well, that's so transactional. Well, I look at this. If I'm doing cell phones, that's transactional. Okay. So it's just a business. I just happen to have real estate as a product. Right. And it allows me to do other businesses. I can buy and hold outside of that. I can do education. There's a lot of things I can do.
Right. So you've got a lot of wisdom, Jerry. So the elephant in the room right now is that a lot of people are afraid of this market we're going into. I spend probably more time than I should on social media. And I'll say that, if you were to rate what you see on social media, it's a lot of doom and gloom. And I think just the opposite. I came in 2008. And we didn't know what we were doing, and we were naive, and the timing was just coincidental, but it ended up being the best time to get in because it was a buyer's market and a lot of the competition had gone away, and it was just an opportunity to really blow up. And we went from having no experience to doing 70 deals or so a year, mostly rehabbing, so kind of doing it the hard way. But I've been waiting for a down market for a while now, but a lot of people that got started, and if you got started in the last 8 or 10 years, like, you don't know this market cycle. And I think it's the best time, but maybe share your thoughts on where we're going for real estate investors.
Well, number one, I'm super excited. Because this is a big opportunity. And I tell this to my team all the time. I said, look, it's like, I want you to understand this is a golden opportunity. Let's don't miss this. Okay. Right. So we want to double down on things and really focus in, because as we know on this side of things, it's Mike, our big thing is I've been through market cycles, multiple ones, and even I think a lot of people don't even think about, like, back in when 9/11 happened and what that done to the market and all that side of things, and then from 2008 and but we're in a different place now, and And none of us have a crystal ball, but it's very clear that the market had to shift, because we can't keep this aggressive appreciation, the inflation
Sure.
the way it is. So
Right.
it has to cool down some. But as that cools down, what happens is the big switch is in affordability.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the big thing that we're seeing is the affordability factor. So when that affordability factor drops, and also what they look at too is the what we call the credit index is dropping too on things, then it takes more and more buyers out of the pool,
Right.
and or in a position where they have to be at a lot lower price point. It was funny. I was talking to a guy the other day, and he says that when his clients a couple months ago could get a house for $150,000 more than he can right now. He
Mm.
had that much more buying power. So that really changes things
Yeah.
on the marketplace. So it allows us as real estate investors and entrepreneurs out there that now we can really start using our skills that we've been working so hard for years, and realize that it's at the point now that we can help people out more, and we're going to see a lot more opportunity because of the change in the marketplace. Because you're going to find the buyer pool is going to continue to shrink on that side of things. One other thing that we're seeing, Mike, right now too, where we're seeing a consistent flow, where from the pandemic, when all moratoriums and so forth have been pulled away, now we're starting to see a pretty good influx of people calling saying, I had the forbearance set up, and I wasn't making payment, but it wasn't. The thing is, it's not that they're in a position where a lot of them are actually in a pre-foreclosure situation. But what happened was the pandemic and everything set them up too, where they created new habits.
Right. Right.
So you think about that, new habits where they were used to not paying these, mortgage payments and stuff. Now they bring them back in place, even though they're in a position where some of them are being rolled to the end. It's like they don't want to anymore.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's a weird time. I think the message that I'd like to convey, on top of what you said, is just that, even in 2008, 9, 10, right, when the market was kind of down. Now I'm in Dallas, so the market wasn't hit as hard as Florida markets or Las Vegas or California markets, but it would not be uncommon for us to completely rehab a house, put it on the market, and have it under contract within the first weekend, even
Yep.
in that market. And the difference is, it's the mindset of like, okay, maybe I'm not getting 40 above market, above list price offers anymore, but it really just takes one buyer. Like, you don't have to have hundreds of buyers, you just need one. And in a market like Dallas, and I'll kind of use that because that's my example, not all markets are like Dallas, but there's a population influx. Like, there's always people that are moving here that are looking for a house. And, it's just kind of booming here. And depending on what market you're in, if you're in a market that's like a net outflow, like your population is decreasing, you probably need to be a little more worried than if it's increasing. If you're in a Texas market, for example, or Arizona, really most of the Southeast and Southwest, you're probably safer than other parts. Even the Midwest is very affordable. Like, there's people moving out of California and the Northeast and stuff to come to more affordable areas, right? And so I think the difference for what we did though is this also wouldn't be uncommon. We get a house under contract, and the house across the street has a sign in the front yard. It's listed. The house down the street's listed. We would close in 30 days, rehab the house over, 4 to 6 weeks, list the house, sell it, and close. And we're pulling our signs out of the yard, which we don't do that anymore, but pulling our signs out of the yard, and the other ones are still there. And it's because we built a better mousetrap. Like, they're selling with emotion. When the market goes down, they still want to get that price that it was worth a year ago. And we're like, look, the market is stabilized or it's kind of down. I'm going to put out a better product at a better price, and just insert yourself as first in line, like every time, right?
Yep. 100%.
It's a
I
game.
totally agree
It's
with
just
you
a
on
game.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing is you start to understand the game, and it just make sure you play the game right. I shared a video the other day, just that I just said that the biggest thing on this is if you're constantly running 100 miles an hour on the wheel, you're going to miss a lot of this stuff. So you got to be in a position where you can at least, even if you're doing a lot of stuff yourself, at least pull back enough to realize this. you listen to a podcast or something, like the or live show like we got here today, and just take some time to realize that and start adjusting a little bit so you can be smart about it, and
Right.
that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
But it's definitely changed. I mean, my COO, she lives in Colorado Springs, and they built a new home just this last year. And I was just thinking about it, Ashley, and Mike, she shared the other day that at the point when she bought their home, they had a lotto set up for people to even buy the lots. Okay. And now they have inventory setting, which they never had before. And and that's a higher price market. So
Sure.
And so you're seeing that effect, especially in those higher end homes like that.
Yeah, the higher end stuff is slowing down. And, we were actually, you and I, well, we've met several times since then because you're in Investor Fuel, but we got together in Breckenridge. We were just out in Vail last week. And so we were out there on our Colorado trip. But, and we've been thinking, we love it out there in the summer. We talked about this, you and I, and we thought about buying a house out there. And I was like, you know what? I think in those markets that are vacation homes or second homes or luxury home areas, like, probably sit on the sidelines a little bit and wait and see what happens. But if you're dealing in the first time home buyer type market in almost any major metro area, I think, the biggest population, the biggest pool of buyers is still there. And I don't want to, you don't want to confuse the retail market with the investor market either, because I think you probably know people that are own a lot of rentals, right? And they really haven't been buying the last few years because they're waiting for stuff to go on sale. And so some of those people have been hoarding cash or parking it somewhere else. And they're starting to come out and they're looking for deals again, right?
Absolutely.
And so that market hasn't really existed as hot as it over the past few years as it will in the next few years, probably.
And we're feeding them. We're already starting to feed them.
Yeah.
So
now they're going to expect a better deal, right? And so the key is,
Absolutely.
I mean, back in 2008, I mean, this is, when we started in 2008, we were kind of taught you pay 65% of ARV less repairs. Like that's your max offer. And it's crept up over the past couple of years to where people are maybe paying 80, 85% of ARV because there's some unrealistic hedge fund or somebody on the back end that's paying some price that we all thought was crazy, but who am I to say they shouldn't pay that much, right? But you pick up those bad habits, right? You start paying more for houses than you should because somebody's going to pay you more than they should. And what's going to happen is that's going to normalize and kind of come back to being able to buy stuff at 50 to 65% of ARV less repairs. And that's where the market's going to kind of settle, right?
Yep. In fact, that's Mike, it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, across the board in our company for all our acquisitions reps, we adjusted and we said, okay, all ARVs, take them down 5-6%.
Yeah.
So we're taking, we adjusted all that and we're just going to keep watching that because it's adjusting. So,
and sellers are going to be a little more motivated now. Like they're used to hearing how hot the market is. And now they're hearing how bad the market is. And the media like goes from one end of the spectrum to the other. They don't know anything in the middle. They're just sensationalism, right? So they're going to start talking about how all these real estate markets are collapsing. Or I saw somebody today, the real estate market is coming to a screeching halt. I was like, that's crazy. But it's
that's good for us when the sellers hear that.
Right. Yeah. But think about, for those of you that are watching, if you're watching live right now, chat in like what it is you're seeing in your market or how you're feeling. But at the end of the day, like we don't wish this on anybody, but we buy houses from people that are in a difficult situation, death, divorce, inheritance, financial problems of all sorts. And unfortunately in a down market, I'm not saying people die at a faster rate, but they continue to die. It's not like somebody's like, I was going to die and sell my house, but the market's kind of down, so I'm going to hold off on dying right now. Like life still happens to people. And unfortunately, in a down market, financial difficulties become a little more prevalent. So, said another way, a lot of your competition is going away. And some sellers are going to be in a more difficult position than they've been in the last few years and need to sell. So there might be more inventory coming into the market with less people competing for that, which means you win, right?
Absolutely. And it creates also a lot of seller finance opportunities.
Yeah. Lots of creative stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to see more and more of that. So even on that side of things, Mike, so that this is part of the planning side. And I want all the viewers to think about this is as as that starts to ship more, plan now and train yourself more on these type of things. That's that's a big reason that Mike obviously has Investor Fuel, and why we're part of it too. It's constantly being up on top of these things and the changes that are happening. That's a key component to it, because then you can adjust ahead of time.
Right. So let's talk at a high level, Jerry. Like, what are you doing differently, and what do you kind of advise people do differently? Let's start with Dispo, and then we'll kind of go into acquisitions. Like, from a Dispo standpoint, what are you shifting, and what should people be thinking about kind of shifting?
Well, I think one of the big things that we just, I should say, what we do, and this is something we do regularly, Mike, is we, about twice a year, we do what we call a reset meeting within the company. And in that reset meeting, we go through and just completely look at everything in the organization and think, okay, what do we need to adjust, and everything regarding from each department on down. And that's one of the areas we just did here. And one of the things we talked a lot was on the Dispo side. And what we really started looking at was, okay, we've had a lot of activity over hedge funds and stuff over the last, several years, but now we're seeing more of the cancellation of contracts, things like that, and being, a lot different when it comes to the valuations and so forth. So we never put all our eggs in one basket. So that's one of the big things I want to share with you guys, is that don't put all your eggs in one basket on this. So on our Dispo side, and some of you that are in the wholesale game, one of the most important things you can be doing right now is building your relationships with your buyers. I cannot stress that enough. That is one of the key components to putting yourself in a position where you will win more than anything else. Because I always think about this too, Mike, back in 2008, then we had the ripple effect from, things for several years. It was funny because we were doing a lot of fix and flip then, but also we were still wholesaling then too. And there was a ton of bank-owned properties, as you know, on that side of things.
Right.
Well, what we did is we made it easier for investors to buy from us than it was with the banks. So I want you guys all to think on that side of things, is make your process easier. And it's all about the relationship building. So one of the big things we do, Mike, is we're constantly on the phone on the Dispo side of things, talking to buyers, building the relationships, even setting up drip email campaigns to them, not to sell them product, but just to, say hi, check in with them. Silly little things like just July 4th. We've done fireworks safety. It's just so, but it's about relationship building.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. So right now because honestly, there's a lot of people that are probably listening to this that have big mailing lists, and they shared mailing lists with somebody else. They got a bunch of people on their list, right? But more often than not, they're not communicating with them unless they have a deal. So you're
Absolutely.
saying go out and just say, this is a perfect time, right? I think you'd agree with this. Go out and say, hey, how are you feeling right now? Are you still buying right now? Have you changed your buy box at all? We're still buying. If you want us to feed you deals, like, let me know what it is you're looking for and how you're feeling right now, right?
Absolutely. In fact, we got to the point, Mike, where our internal list that we work with, unless we speak to you on the phone, you don't even get in there.
Yeah.
And we just got it that tight, because I think so many people get in a habit of just blasting things out. And that's not how you operate on a high level, especially when it comes to market shifts. You got to be smart about that, because the relationships is what gets you through. So I think about this too. It's like, if you're a buyer of mine, Mike, and I'm in a position where I have this deal, and you and I've been working together over, 6 months or a couple of years, and I've kept in touch with you. I bring one to the table and I go, Mike, here's the deal on this. I know it's a little tight, but love to be able to work with you. I know it's right in your area and your buy box on things. Well, because I have that relationship, you might say, you know what, I'll work with you on that, Jerry. I can do a little bit more. We can work together and still make this happen. So here we got a deal coming together that you would never have coming together if I was just blasting.
Yeah. And I think people have to remember, and, I think everybody's probably similar to me. I get hundreds of emails a day. Most of it's junk. and stuff just gets lost in email, right? And that's kind of where we are right now. Deliverability is terrible. Sometimes it doesn't even get delivered anymore because the email service providers have just thought, well, that's probably spam, so not even send it there, you know. So I think, are you doing more stuff via text and phone calls than just kind of emailing?
Yeah, we definitely do on that.
Yeah.
It's in fact we just had a meeting this week and made another decision to hire someone else on the dispo side just to help with the phone calls.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
let's
that's
talk a
how
little
important
about,
it is to us.
that's great. Let's talk a little bit about acquisition. So what do you do differently? You just talked a minute ago about, you told your team to let's ratchet it down and start to buy deeper, right? But anything you do differently from a lead gen or acquisition standpoint in a market that's starting to slow down?
Well, I think on the lead gen, I mean, one of the things we've been doing, obviously, for 20 plus years is direct mail. We're not backing off on that. We know it works.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of the areas that we're going to continue on. And obviously, you know that yourself by having an investor machine like that, that's a consistent flow. So, I think that the marketing component, what's interesting on things, we've actually started to see more of an uptick here recently versus before. We're starting to see a kind of a decline on things, but now we're starting to see more of an uptick on that. So that's one thing is I can just tell you on the marketing side, this main thing is just be consistent. I see too many people, they just switch all the time. And I'm sure you see that too, Mike. It's just shift here. And it's like, be consistent with it. You find 2 or 3 channels that work for you and just boom, 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 boom. And then measure those and make sure you understand your return on investment. And then on the acquisition side, I think to me, obviously the big thing that I take that is a big place in my heart on things is it all comes down really to sales process.
Right.
And if you're not doing that side of things, it's going to cost you deals.
Yeah.
100%. And I don't know how many times I have to tell people this, from students I work with to, even team members. My team members have got it pretty good because I hammer it on that side of things. But sales process is the difference between you. I tell people this. I say, if you come onto my team and you're a sales rep, the difference between you following the sales process and really growing in it and not doing it is the difference between you making $75,000 a year and $250,000 a year.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah, it's in a sloppy market like we've been in. I say sloppy, it's like shooting fish in a barrel over the past few years, maybe. People just pick up a lot of bad habits, right? They don't necessarily follow a good process. They hire somebody that's a salesperson, but they're just kind of, and I've realized this a lot over the last 5 years, is there are people that I think are good at sales because they're very personable and friendly, but they don't really follow a process. They're just they have the gift of gab, let's say. They're a good talker, but they're not a good closer. There's so many people like that I'm like, oh, this guy's going to do great. And just couldn't get anything closed. I'm like, what is going on? It's they're just not a closer. They're at the end, and some of it is they don't follow a process. They're just I can talk to anybody. It's okay, but that doesn't mean you can close deals, right?
Absolutely.
So getting those processes, and I think whether it's getting more buttoned up or having somebody outsource your lead generation and getting the whatever training you need for your team to kind of follow that consistent process is how you take advantage of the market we're going into, because being sloppy doesn't work anymore.
No, I totally agree on that. Yeah. I think the market, when the marketplace is really strong out there, you can do a lot of things and get away with it and look like a hero. And still, it's just like some of the prices they were paying for deals to flip and, buy, fix and flip. It's well, we can just put it out there and push it up more and continue to push it. And, that's all changing. So,
right. Yeah. One of the last things I'll say on the acquisition side and lead gen side is our kind of claim to fame, my wife and I, is we started in 2008, and early 2009, we started to become aware that a lot of people are pulling back on their advertising and stuff. And we saw our acquisition cost and our cost per lead going down. So we literally went up 500%. We were spending like $5,000 a month. We went up to 25,000 a month. And that literally is how we moved forward is we just leapfrogged everybody else because a lot of people were moving to the sidelines and we were leaning in. And I think that's the type of market that is coming up here is there's going to be a lot more, you got to make, they say, what do you say? You have to make hay while the sun is shining. Like
Yes.
that time is coming, my friends. And so rather than be afraid, now you got to be smart about things. Like, if you're used to selling to hedge funds, like a lot of that stuff is going away right now or certainly the sidelines. If you're used to using really cheap financing, that's going to change a little bit. If you're used to doing really heavy rehabs, you should probably pull back to do more wholesaling or even wholetailing, right? It's just kind of pull that risk lever down, but never stop your acquisitions because I was talking to somebody here over the past couple of days that had kind of slowed down over the past couple of months on acquisitions because it's been getting harder. They lost one of their sales guys, so they kind of pulled back. And the problem now is that's future revenue, right? So if you pull back on that future revenue, you're not going to feel it right away, but you're going to feel it in the months ahead. And then it causes another spiral effect of like, I can't afford to pay my team anymore. I can't afford to advertise. Let me just stop for a month. And that's like the kiss of death of it's hard to recover from that.
Yeah. It's all, I tell everybody it's all about maintaining the pipeline.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you got to maintain that pipeline.
So Jerry, let's talk real fast here. So you recently acquired the REI Sales Academy from John Martinez. John's been a leader in the space of training people on sales, and you've been training people on sales too. He's been more of like, I guess, kind of fundamental sales techniques and training your sales guys, and you've been more on process of stepping out of the business and having a sales team that runs, and now you're kind of pulling all that together. So maybe just tell us at a high level of what's going on there and what we can expect from here on out.
Yeah, so it's been, Mike, actually going on almost 90 days since we acquired the Sales Academy from John. John and I started working on this, as you know, it was last year, and it was probably about 8 months or so in the works before we were able to get it done. It just, John and I could have got it done, but when you add on all the attorneys and everything else, and the banks and all that, that's where, how that is. That's where all the delays are at.
Yeah.
So, but we got it done, and we were really, just super excited to work with John on this and be able to take over the Sales Academy. And our big thing that we were looked at was really bringing into, in our eyes, kind of the Sales Academy 2.0. And what we're focusing on is bringing a lot more of the practical knowledge of doing the business for as long as I have to the Sales Academy, and adding more value to that side of things, because John's done a tremendous system building out the sales process, and just about every team out there, even though the trainers have taken a version of this to put it in place. So it's kind of the gold standard when it comes to real estate investor sales trainings. And we're just looking at adding a lot more of the practical side of things when it comes to adding in some deal structuring components to it, Mike, such as like novation side, some creative financing components, because we find that what I've learned over the years of doing this is that you become really good at the sales process, and then look at what is the next step in the evolution. Well, the next step in the evolution is start bringing in what we call programs. So that way, when we're talking to a seller, we can work the sales process. And not only can we do that and create more conversions at higher spreads, but now we also can look at if somebody doesn't fit into program A, which is the cash, typical discounted offer, we can take them into other programs. And that's what we're going to really work on to help our students with, and make sure that now they have additional ways to help sellers out and bring in more opportunities for their business.
That's great. And that's the market we're heading into, is we talked about a little bit ago, is using creative offers, creative finance, whatever it might be to get the job done. Because, there's a lot of cheap mortgages out there, for example, and you might have to get creative in the shifting market here.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're really looking forward to that. It's an interesting thing, Mike. It was, that's been it's been a great experience. John's done a tremendous job of setting things up over the years. And what, it was another step in my comfort zone too, just on a personal basis, because here I'm, started buying some companies. And I love that because it fits right into what we're already doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Jerry, thanks for sharing your wisdom with us today. If folks wanted to connect with you, where do they go?
So obviously you can reach me on social media. You can hit me up on Instagram, thejerrygreen.com, or excuse me, the Jerry Green. You also can hit me up on my Facebook, Jerry Green, and right in out of Germantown, Ohio, and my website, the Jerry Green. And so Jerry Green everywhere there. And then also anybody that's looking out on the sales side of things, make sure to reach out, and just all you gotta do is just Google real quick, REI Sales Academy. That'll come right up, and go right to our website, midwestrevenue.com, and I'm glad to help you in any way we can on any type of sales training.
Good stuff. Hey, thanks for being such a giver in the industry, Jerry. We appreciate that.
Oh yeah, Mike, thank you for all you do, and I definitely appreciate you too, brother.
Yeah,
okay?
Thanks, man. For those of you that are watching right now, I hope you got some value from today. I'd love to have you kind of chat in here if you got some value out of this. Go to flipnerd.com/live, and you can register for our live shows. We'll notify you of the next upcoming one. And I should know this, but I don't. I think maybe Trevor Mock is next up. And also, if you sign up at flipnerd.com/live, you'll get exclusive access to the last, I think we've done about 6 of these live shows here lately. So some other really amazing content with some amazing industry leaders. So it will notify you of upcoming shows, and we'll let you know how to access the past few that we've done. So appreciate you guys a ton. Hope you got some good value today. Jerry, thanks so much. Good to see you, my friend.
Thanks, Mike. All right. Likewise, my friend.
Have a great day. The best market that we've been in a long time is ahead of us. So if you see all this fear mongering online, don't let it scare you. At the end of the day, I kind of said this the other day. I just made up these numbers, but there's when you go into a recession, there's 10% of the people that are in depression, I would say, because they've lost their jobs or they've lost their house. It's impacting them in a massive way. There's 80% of people that are just going to sit on the sidelines and wait until something happens a few years. And there's 10% of the people that are going to be leapfrogging everybody else. And the key is to be in that 10%. Warren Buffett said something to the effect of, when everybody is fearful, that's when you should be greedy, right? And that is, and not greedy in a way to take advantage of anybody, but just aggressive in terms of moving the ball forward for your business or your family. So this is that time. Just be prepared for it. Be smart about it. Make good decisions. Don't be sloppy. Hire people like Jerry to learn how to improve your systems and processes. Hire people like us at Investor Machine, or get around the right people at Investor Fuel and learn kind of how to take your business to the next level, or go bury your head in the sand and disappear for a few years and come back and realize you missed out on huge opportunities. That really is what we're talking about here today. So hopefully you guys got some good value. We'll see you on the next show. Thanks for joining me on today's Flip Nerd Live. To get access to our upcoming interviews with experts and get your questions answered and join our free online community, please visit flipnerd.com/live. Thanks again to our sponsors. Investor Fuel is America's #1 mastermind community for professional real estate investors, where hundreds of the top investors from across the country come together to build stronger businesses and stronger lives. Our community is about giving and transformation. If you're ready to take your business to a whole new level, please learn more and schedule a call with us today at investorfuel.com. Investor Machine is the nation's #1 done-for-you lead source for professional real estate investors, serving many of the highest performing and most respected real estate investors in America. We use a unique approach to data that is truly unlike anything else on the market, then execute your direct mail and skip tracing campaigns for you. Markets are filling up quickly. If you'd like to learn more about our world-class service, please visit investormachine.com. Find out why over 7,000 real estate investors and agents have chosen Carrot to build their website to attract and convert more online motivated seller leads. Visit flipnerd.com/carrot to learn more about how Carrot can help you. We look forward to seeing you on the next Flip Nerd Live Real Estate Investor Training. Please make sure to join our free community so you can join us live at flipnerd.com/live.